What's up, everybody? Welcome to BioS3 Raw TV. I told you guys that I was going to look into the high fructose corn syrup thing a little more. And the more I looked into it, the more stuff that I found that the information was actually shocking. Not just shocking because high fructose corn syrup technically is not good for you, and it's not just a caloric thing. It is shocking that the information's out there and so many people don't know about it. Like, this is what I guess what bothers me the most. Like, people come to me a lot of times and ask me questions about things, and I'm like, have you researched this? They're like, well, I haven't really looked yet. And I'm like, well, if you looked, you probably find some of the information. So then I'll right in front of them, I'll Google like the question or whatever, Google the whole question right in front of my phone. Like, all this stuff pops up, and I'm like, well, I knew about this, and this, but even sitting here, I'm learning as you're learning because I just found something new too. And we'll talk about like what's going on right then and there. So we really do live in a time that's pretty amazing where we can get all the information at our fingertips. Literally, we walk around with these phones in our hand that literally gives us everything that we ever wanted to know, and it's just literally there for us for the taking. It's free. So I looked up this other stuff about high fructose corn syrup because I wanted to know why. Why is it so bad for us? Why is it some people consider it poison? Why is this not healthy for us? Okay, and not what are people's opinions, not what do people think about it. What is the truth that this stuff is bad for you? That's what I wanted to know, right? So I looked up over here and I got 5 reasons why by Dr. Hyman. He's pretty interesting. Now, this doctor said plain and simple that he had gotten a packet. Like, what I mean by a packet is he got mailed something by the high fructose corn syrup company that manufactures it, or the corn company or whatever it was. And it was a bunch of propaganda telling how good this stuff is for you, how not dangerous it is. And he goes, I don't know why they sent it to me. He goes, because I'm the one doing all the research and I'm finding out the real deal. He goes, but the thing is, people that are not doing the research, these doctors, and this is kind of true for all doctors, well, a lot of doctors, if they don't keep up with continuing education, like stuff that they specialize in, really go to town and learn stuff about it, they just kind of read these overviews real quick. They go, okay, the latest information says that it's okay for you, and the study was done here, here, here. Okay, so this stuff is not bad for you. Okay, they go on to start telling their, I almost said clients, but patients, that the stuff is okay when it's really not. They didn't really check into it, but they just take whatever they were given and take that as fact. So they only know what they've been told. They didn't do any digging because most of these doctors are very busy people. They have practices like nonstop. They're consistently busy nonstop. So it's like they don't have a lot of time to sit around and start researching things. So they just trust the people they get the information from. So let's go through these things over here. So what science says about high fructose corn syrup. The insert that came, it's basically that packet, right? Let's examine the science and insert some common sense into the conversation. These facts may indeed come as a sweet surprise. The ad suggesting getting your nutrition advice from your doctor, who unfortunately probably knows less about nutrition than most grandmothers do. Interesting, right? And I can actually attest to that because I know a few doctors that they'll ask you questions like, really? Well, why? Why do you do more protein? Like, it's never been proven. I'm like, never been proven. You don't think these bodybuilders eat more protein than the average person? How do you think they maintain their muscle mass? And they're like, oh yeah, and you're like, fuck. Having studied this for over a decade and having read, interviewed, and personally talked to most of the medical and nutrition experts used to bolster the claim that corn sugar and cane sugar are essentially the same, quite a different picture emerges, and the role of high fructose corn syrup is promoting obesity, disease, and death across the globe becomes clear. Last week over lunch, Dr. Bruce Ames and one of the foremost nutritional experts in the world, scientist and nutrition expert in the world, Dr. Jeffrey Bland, a nutritional biochemist and a student of Linus Pauling, and I reviewed the existing science, and Dr. Ames shared shocking new evidence from his research center on high fructose corn syrup. I keep going highly branched cyclodextrin for some reason. High fructose corn syrup can trigger body-wide inflammation and obesity. Now, they're not talking about calorie-wise, okay? Inflammation is bad. It causes a host of ailments and can fuck you up and even kill you if not kept in check. Now, I'm not talking about you're going to drop dead today, but it'll kill you a lot faster than if you didn't have the inflammation. I'm talking about a couple of years, you're having all these different ailments and shit going wrong with you. Next thing you know, you're fucking dead. And that's an extreme way to look at it, but that does happen. People just don't hear about it. So here are the 5 reasons you should stay away from any product containing high fructose corn syrup. Now, some whey proteins, pay attention to me, some whey proteins and protein powders have high fructose corn syrup in it. Look at your label. If it has high fructose corn syrup in it, do not trust those motherfuckers, period. That being said, sugar in any form causes obesity and disease when consumed in pharmacologic dosages. obviously. Cane sugar and high fructose corn syrup are indeed both harmful when consumed in pharmacologic doses of 140 pounds per person per year. When one 20-ounce high fructose corn syrup soda, sports drink, or tea has 17 tablespoons of sugar, and the average teenager often consumes 2 of those a day. We are conducting a largely uncontrolled experiment on human species. Our hunter-gatherer ancestors consumed the equivalent of 20 teaspoons per year, not per day. In this sense, I would agree that the corn industry, that sugar is sugar, quantity matters, but there are some important differences. Listen. High fructose corn syrup and cane sugar are not biochemically identical or processed the same way by the body. The way that they're made is not made the same way. How the body processes them are not the same way. This completely destroys the IIFYM in calories in, calories out crew. Destroys them. These are scientists and doctors saying this. That destroys that whole argument. It goes right out the window saying not all carbs are created equal. I'm going to go to my death, okay? I will be on my fucking deathbed, and like one of the last things I'm going to say is not all calories are calories. Not all macros are the fucking same. Like I'm going to go to my grave saying this shit. I don't give a shit. High fructose corn syrup is an industrial food product and far from natural or naturally occurring substance. It's extracted from corn stalks through a process so secret that Archer Daniels Midland in Cargill would not allow the investigative journalist Michael Pollan to observe in his book The Omnivore's Dilemma. So they won't even let him see how it's done. It's like a secret process. Nobody knows how the fuck it's done. The sugars are extracted through a chemical enzymatic process resulting in a chemically and biologically novel compound called high fructose corn syrup. Some basic biochemistry will help you understand this. Regular cane sugar, sucrose, is made of 2 sugar molecules bound tightly together, glucose and fructose, in equal amounts. The enzymes in your digestive tract must break down the sucrose into glucose and fructose, which are then absorbed into the body. High fructose corn syrup also consists of glucose and fructose, not in a 50-50 ratio, but a 55-45, which goes, what's the big difference, right? Listen, like what's the big deal? It's not that much of a difference. Listen, right? 55-45 fructose to glucose in an unbound form. It's all about how the form is. It can be digested in different forms, different ways. Fructose is sweeter than glucose, and high fructose corn syrup is cheaper than sugar because it's government farm bill corn subsides. Products with high fructose corn syrup are sweeter and cheaper than products made with cane sugar. This allowed for the average soda size to balloon from 8 ounces to 20 ounces with little financial cost to manufacturers, but great human costs of increased obesity, diabetes, and chronic disease. Because people will just drink the soda. They don't think of per serving. They'll just drink a can of soda, a bottle of soda. That's what they do. They just get the bottle and they try to finish it because you let it sit there, it goes bad, it goes flat. You try to finish it because you don't want to waste the money, right? It says, now back to biochemistry. Since there is no chemical bond between them, no digestion is required, so they are more rapidly absorbed into the bloodstream. Fructose goes right to the liver and triggers lipogenesis, the production of fats like triglycerides and cholesterol. This is why it's the major cause of liver damage in this country and causes a condition called fatty liver, which affects 70 million people. Okay? Fructose, but certain types of fructose, right? They say it's not literally not the fructose from fruit, but the fructose from high fructose corn syrup. It's 2 different things. Anyways. Although they're called the same thing, technically they're 2 different things. The rapidly absorbed glucose triggers big spikes in insulin, our body's major fat storage hormone. Both of these features of high fructose corn syrup lead to increased metabolic disturbances that drive increases in appetite, weight gain, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, dementia, and more. But there is one more thing I learned during lunch with Dr. Bruce Ames. Research done by this group at the Children's Hospital Oakland Research Institute found that free fructose from high fructose corn syrup requires more energy to be absorbed by the gut and soaks up 2 phosphorus molecules from ATP, our body's energy source. This depletes the energy fuel source, or ATP, in our gut required to maintain the integrity of our intestinal lining. Pay attention. Little tight junctions cement each intestinal cell together, preventing food and bacteria from leaking across the intestinal membrane and triggering an immune reaction in a body-wide inflammation. High doses of free fructose have been proven to literally punch holes in the intestinal lining, allow nasty byproducts of toxic gut bacteria and partially digested food proteins to enter your bloodstream and trigger the inflammation that we all know is the root of obesity, diabetes, cancer, heart disease, dementia, and accelerated aging. Naturally occurring fructose in fruit is part of a complex nutrients and fiber that doesn't exhibit the same biological effects as the free high fructose doses found in corn sugar. The takeaway: cane sugar, industrial produced, and physiologically named corn sugar are not biochemically or physiologically the same. Now that was just one little piece of this thing. So there's other things that says contaminants including mercury are not regulated or measured by the FDA, which this high fructose corn syrup has mercury and other contaminants in it because technically it's not regulated. Independent medical and nutrition experts do not support the use of high fructose corn syrup in our diet, despite the assertions from the corn industry. I mean, we can go on and on because there's stuff the Department of Nutrition, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill has published studies on dangers of sugar-sweetened drinks with their contribution. I mean, there's so much stuff. The American Journal on Clinical Nutrition. These are actual real things. These are not like bullshit things. These have been published, and it has everything on here that talks about it. High fructose corn syrup is almost always a marker of poor quality, nutrient-poor, disease-creating industrial food products or food-like substances. So technically, it's not even a food. That's another thing that kind of like, it's not even a food. Like, how does that make you feel when you're like, fuck, it's not even a food? Well, what the fuck is it? It's a fucking chemical. It's a nutrient, but technically it's not a healthy nutrient. So they said the real issues are only two. We are consuming high fructose corn syrup and sugar in pharmacologic quantities never before examined in human history. 140 pounds a year versus 20 tablespoons a year 10,000 years ago. So they've never studied how much high fructose corn syrup is being used long term to find out the effects. It's never been done. So think about that for a second. There's stuff on the market in your supplements, in your whey protein, that have never been studied and what for that amount long term, but the short term amounts have been studied. In the short term, it causes things like cancer and obesity, inflammation. In the short term, like what the fuck? High fructose corn syrup is always found in very poor quality foods that are nutritionally vicious and filled with all sorts of other disease-promoting compounds, including fats, salts, chemicals, and even mercury. So here's the deal. This is literally, and I'm going to keep digging into this because the idea is put the truth out, right? The truth is out there. It's out there for you to find. The thing is, some people may not believe it. And my thing is, if you're the type of people that believe doctors, that believe scientists, that look for studies that have been published to say whether they're real or not, because people like to argue whether or not studies are real, whether they count, whether they matter, whether, it's bias, it's this, it's that. These are real studies that have been published that doctors and scientists across the world agree are correct. And people still don't fucking understand it. They still don't believe it. Like, what would it take to get you to believe that? Because you'll listen to a doctor that you go to that may have no fucking clue about your condition. Just bear with me. You go to the doctor, you're a general MD, and he goes to school and he gets a little bit of everything, right? He's not a specialist. He doesn't specialize. He gets a little bit of everything. You come into his office and you have some kind of cold or something going on. You have an ailment, whatever it is. And he comes in there, he goes, okay, what's the problem today? And you say, oh, this is what's going on, doc. This started happening. He goes, okay, well, how long has it been happening for? This amount of time. Okay, when do you start for, do you feel this? Do you feel that? No, okay, all right. Okay, hang on 1 second. And he leaves the room, right? Well, now what happens is the things that he's seeing over and over again, he kind of knows what it is because it's like a virus or it's a bacteria or whatever's going around that it's consistent that he sees it over and over again in patients. But let's say he sees something that may not be consistent. It's something a little bit different. Back in the day, he used to walk in his room and he had a big fucking book. It was like a book of, and I've seen Erin's, my wife's nursing book that will basically tell you what antibiotics to take for what ailments, okay? It's a book. It's just one fucking book. It's 1,000,000 pages. And literally, he would go in that room, he would look up your fucking symptoms, and he'd say, well, it's probably one of these two right here, more than likely. So then what he does is he writes a prescription, he comes back in the room, and he says, okay, here's the deal. This is what it is. They never really say what it could be, but they say, this is what it is. Take this medication for the next week. In 3 days, if you don't feel significantly better, call, we'll change the medication. Because he narrowed it down to 2 different things from that book. Okay, without that book, he doesn't know shit. So think about these doctors that when you walk in there, they only know what they're being told. A lot of them don't. Some of them do study. Some of them go out there and they read a lot of stuff. They get a lot of good information. You know what? I can give thumbs up and appreciate that. But many doctors are so fucking busy, they can barely keep their shit together. They're so busy. So what they do is they just kind of run in and I don't want to say they half-ass it, but they have to do things that are really economical with their time and their time management. Because they get so much shit to do. So they just write out these fucking scripts based on what they think it is. Now, you're looking at these same doctors that told my client he needed to do more cardio and eat less calories to lose weight. The same doctor that prescribed him these antidepressants that put on 60 pounds on him in 2 months, where he changed nothing. And we see this over and over again as trainers, people that took antidepressants that cannot lose the weight. This guy had no concept that these things actually do something to your thyroid. When my client went down to Mexico, he bought Thyroid while he was down there. He started taking it. Lo and behold, 50-something pounds came off in a month. Something was happening to his thyroid, and the doctor refused to actually test his thyroid. In Maryland, there's some weird thing about having thyroid tests. I don't know what the fucking problem is. My ex-girlfriend actually took the blood work paper when she was supposed to bring it to the Quest Diagnostics, and she checked off T3 thyroid to check it on there. When she handed it to the lady, because the doctor gives you the sheet and you take it to the place to get blood work, they called the doctor. Hey, do you want this thyroid done? He said, no, I must be a mistake. What the fuck? Like, what? This doesn't make any sense. They don't even want to test thyroid. So he was telling them, oh, you're doing a great job with your diet, da-da-da. So my client tells him, hey, I started taking this thyroid that I bought down in Mexico, and it worked great. And he's like, oh, you got to get off that. It's ruining this. He goes, how would you know? You don't even test my thyroid. Like, you've been telling me to do more cardio. I was already doing 2 hours of cardio on fucking 0 carbs, not losing a pound. Like, my body was shot. It would not fucking do anything. You didn't test my cortisol. You didn't test my estrogen. You tested my testosterone, and you said it was fucking normal. It was 183. It was below normal. But the doctors, he wasn't an endocrinologist. He didn't really understand what the fuck was going on. But he knew how to prescribe those antidepressants like that. He knew how to give out medications left and right because he didn't actually understand what was going on. He just knew how to fucking treat the ailment and not really cure anything or fix it. So you have these doctors that just go by whatever they're told. They're like sheep. Whatever they're told by whatever companies and fucking these pharmaceutical reps and shit. My doctor gave me fucking Ultram, Tramadol, as a sample. That's a narcotic. It's scheduled as a narcotic now. Back then, he used to tell me there was no side effects. It wasn't addictive. It's not only addictive, but it's just as addictive as Vicodin and shit is. And it's a narcotic. My doctor had no clue. He was listening to the guy that was the fucking sales rep. Gave him a bunch of samples. Got people addicted to the fucking drug. We know 20 years later that it's addictive. So be aware, guys. Like, this shit is out there and it's real. Whether you believe it or not doesn't fucking matter. You not believing it doesn't change the fact that it's fucking reality. It's out there. People are getting harmed every day. You are putting this shit in your fucking body and some of your whey proteins. Take a look on the label. My fucking advice, get off of any high fructose corn syrup. Get rid of it all. I don't give a fuck if it's a whey protein and drinks that you have in the fucking refrigerator. Get rid of it because it's not just about being obese. It's about your health long term. That there's 100% absolute proof that this shit will fuck you up long term if you don't stop taking it. That's all there is to it, whether you like it or not. BiochemistryTraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. BiochemistryTraining.com is a blog. So whether you like it or not, it's True Bicep, and we are